Today we're taking a look at all of the things you can do if you've been contacted about a debt by Zinc Group Credit Management, also known as Zinc Group Debt Collectors or Zinc Debt Collectors. We're getting all of this information straight from my website, moneynerd.co.uk, and it's got all of the information that we need here. So just to be clear, I don't give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just making sure that you have access to all of the information that you need so you can make an informed decision. Now, you've probably received a letter from Zinc Group Credit Management or even had them knocking at your door. When I had debt collectors chasing me back in 2010, it caused me a lot of stress and anxiety and plenty of sleepless nights. But since then, I've worked in the credit card industry for over 10 years, and I'm happy to say that I've been able to use the information like that's contained in this video to become debt-free. So today I'd like to answer 5 frequently asked questions like, are Zinc Group even legitimate? How do you reduce your repayment amounts? How to stop Zinc Group Credit Management from contacting me? And what happens if you ignore them? And what they're not allowed to do if they're collecting your debts. So question number 1 is, are Zinc Group legitimate? If you've received a letter from them in the post, this is probably your first question. If you don't recognise the company name, it might be that they've purchased your debt or they're a debt collector collecting on behalf of another company. I can confirm that Zinc Group Credit Management is a UK registered company, and whilst there are a bunch of scams out there when it comes to debt collectors, I'm afraid this is unlikely to be a scam. However, you should never pay unless you're certain that the debt is yours. You're well within your rights to contact Zinc Group to provide and ask them to provide proof that the debt is yours. I've got a free letter template that you can use to confirm that the debt is yours and to confirm exactly how much you owe. It's totally free and I'll link that in the description. Question number 2 is, what happens if you ignore Zinc Group? Well, if you ignore debt collectors in general, your problem could escalate and become very serious. Zinc Group does have the right to take court action against you, and if you were to ignore court letters, you could end up with a county court judgment or CCJ. This can have a major impact on your credit score and your chances of borrowing money in the future. If you do get a CCJ and you still don't pay, this could ultimately result in bailiffs or enforcement agents coming to your home to take your valuable items or even your car. There's a big difference between having a debt collector like Zinc Group chasing you and having bailiffs come to your home. So I can't urge you enough that now's the time to take action on your debts while there's still options available to you. So please don't ignore Zinc Group, and we'll get to what you should do later in this video. Question number 3 is, what are the rules that Zinc Group need to follow? Well, despite being legally appointed to collect your debt or outright owning your debt, there's several things that Zinc Group can't do when it comes to collecting debts. Knowing what Zinc Group can and can't do will make you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when dealing with them. So here's the things they're legally not allowed to do. They're not allowed to visit your place of work unless you give them specific permission to do so. Before this rule was in place, some debt collectors would show up while you're working and try and make things as awkward for you as possible as a way of sort of pressuring you into paying. And on a similar note, they're not allowed to speak to neighbours, friends or family about your debt. Again, this is to try and stop them from embarrassing you or shaming you into paying your debt. Zinc Group Credit Management can't contact or visit your home at unreasonable times of the day. For phone calls, most people would agree that calls before 8 AM are too early and calls after 9 PM are too late. But of course, your circumstances might be different. For example, if you work night shifts. If you can't take calls during certain times, then tell them. They should keep a record of this and avoid calling you during these times. And by the way, for home visits, the regulations say that debt collectors need to clearly explain the purpose and the intended outcome of the proposed visit, and they need to give you adequate notice of the date and the likely time of the visit. You're well within your rights to complain if they keep calling you or visiting your home or homes at times that you've told them to avoid. Next, it's also good to know that they're not allowed to act in a threatening or intimidating way. Also, they should never pressurize you into paying larger installments than you can afford or hitting payment deadlines that are impossible. They are also not allowed to pressure you into selling your home or to take out more credit to pay your debts. Also, it's good to know that debt collectors can't pretend to be bailiffs or enforcement agents. Unlike bailiffs, debt collectors can't force their way into your house and they can't refuse to leave if you ask them to. And they're certainly not allowed to take any of your belongings or clamp your car. Okay, question number 4. How long can you be chased for debt? Under the Limitation Act of 1980, a creditor has up to 6 years to chase most unsecured unpaid debts or 12 years for some mortgage debts. This limitation period starts from the time of your last payment or when you last acknowledged the debt. Ultimately, debt collectors can't enforce their debts through the courts after 6 years, but if you've already been taken to court and have a county court judgment or CCJ registered against you, then unfortunately there's no end date for how long you can be chased. Question number 5 is, how do I pay less and come to an agreement with Zinc Group? Well, there's a number of ways you might be able to reduce the amount you pay. If Zinc Group are adding interest and charges to your debt, then you can ask them to freeze them to help you get back on track and clear your debts quicker. Debt collectors are more likely to stop or reduce interest and charges if you can prove that you're in financial difficulties. You could put together a budget showing your income and essential living costs so you can clearly demonstrate that you're in financial difficulties. You can also use that same budget to negotiate reduced payments. Again, for this you'll need to show why you can't afford higher repayments, so make sure you're clearly showing your income, your essential living costs, so you can demonstrate what you can afford. Sometimes debt collectors will only agree to reduce payments for a short period of time, and at the end of this period they'll want an update on your situation. Other times debt collectors will agree to much longer repayment periods, but all of this will totally depend on your individual circumstance and the nature of the debt. If you have the cash, you could make a full and final settlement offer. This is where you ask them if they'll accept a lump sum instead of the full balance that you owe on the debt, and in return for that lump sum, some debt collectors will agree to write off the remainder of the debt. Now, these are not the only debt solutions that are available in the UK. There's actually a bunch more. There's some free debt solutions, there's some paid debt solutions. Each of them have their pros and cons. If you want to learn more about these debt solutions that I mentioned, or you want to find out about the debt solutions that I didn't mention, then you can check them all out on my website, which I'll link in the description below.